My name's Dean, and what we're going to do today is just run through some of the old, more historical handguns. And the first one we're going to start with is a William Grice muzzleloader, roughly 45 caliber, made by the William Grice Company in London, England, approximately 1750. It was called a boot pistol, something that the more wealthy merchants would carry in their boots. Let's say they were traveling by stagecoach when they were highwaymen or whatever they called them back in those days. And it was strictly used for their self-protection, and it was small enough and concealable enough. This is a flintlock, still in working condition. The next one we're going on to, this was actually an original cavalry pistol used by the U.S. forces, marked as such. This is a Johnston, and like I said, it's marked U.S. Cavalry. It was the approximate age takes you back somewhere in the neighborhood of 1830, give or take a few years. Originally, some of these pistols were flintlock that came back from the Revolutionary War period, but this was closer to the Civil War period, this one. At the time, the cavalrymen, a lot of them would carry two of these pistols, one on each side in their saddle, with a holster on the saddle, and another one or two on their person, including a rifle or whatever they deemed they needed at the time. Again, this was actually a flintlock military version that was converted in 1854 to a percussion. Again, a black powder, and it was in 54 caliber. This is my faithful companion, Roscoe. He's a Bernese mountain rescue dog, and he hangs with me no matter where we go. Anyway, moving on with guns. Here's another very interesting example you will not see other than probably in a museum. This is a 7-shot 32 revolver. It's called the Chicago Palm Pistol. It dates back to the gambling days, riverboat or otherwise. And the gamblers would hold it like this with the barrel between their two fingers. They had the two things here to hold it steady, and you just simply push the palm part of it in, and that was the trigger that fired the gun, and it would rotate onto the next shot. And these were quite popular in the day. They were a couple little Colt Derringers. Again, they were in 22 caliber, which was a small caliber, which could be fired by a man or a lady. A lot of ladies that carry these in their little purses or muffs even. And of course, gamblers were notorious for having several of these other guns on them as they was playing cards, just to make sure the other guy wasn't cheating too bad. But anyway, another interesting example of where the gun industry was at the time. And again, these would have been in the late 1800s. Here's another good example. These come in a lot of different lengths and configurations. This is Stevens, what they call a Model 35. It's in a 22. It's a target model with adjustable rear sight. You simply push the button on the side here, push that in, and the barrel breaks open, and you load it and unload it. These were reasonably priced. They probably sold for a couple dollars back in the day again, and these were again in the late 1800s, 1870s, 90s, in that range, and even a little later these are still made. But again, these came in all different lengths and varieties. Most of them were 22. If you've had there were a few different calibers at the time, but again, mainly 22s, an affordable gun for somebody to carry back in that time. Okay, going on with the Stevens pocket pistols. Now, this was the 35, the little heavier model with the nicer sights and all. These are Model 41s in different configurations here. Some have the hooded front sights, some actually have no front sight or very little one. And again, these are open simply by pushing the button on the side and tipping the barrel open. Again, these were reasonably priced guns. In the late 1800s through the early 1900s, the gun basically designed where anybody could afford one if they wanted one. These were self-protection guns mainly. Some trappers liked to carry them. Again, they were in 22 caliber. And then moving on, we have one more that was in the same era. It's a Frank Wesson, one of the founders of Smith and Wesson. It's the first model again in a 22. Now this one opens a little different. It's got the little lever here. You just push it back and it pops the barrel open, which again you can load and unload it. Again, it was about the same era, probably possibly just a little earlier. Again, these are all working condition guns. What can I say? They look good in my collection. Here's a very interesting example. You don't see too many of these around anymore in this kind of condition. It's a Frank Wesson, what they call the pocket rifle. It's a longer barrel, fully adjustable sights, has a skeleton brass stock. Again, it's just a push button open. Could be. Oh, that's the ejector. I hope you're not recording all this.
Oh, yeah.
Damn. I gotta be smarter than that. Oh. Again, cut a lot of this.
We'll see.
This is unique. Has a little button on the bottom here that you simply push it and the barrel rotates out, and then you can eject the shell. It's got a little hand ejector right here that you push it back and it kicks the shell out. You move it back up, reload it, and snap it back into place, and you're ready for the next round. Again, it's in a 22, something just a little different, somewhat unusual. Again, dating probably somewhere in the neighborhood of late 1870s, an original. This is an interesting pistol that came to my hand quite a few years back. It's what they call a Belgian backup. It's a muzzle loading percussion pistol that you can cock. It's got two hammers, two triggers, and what you do is you have to load it again, being a muzzle loader. But this is what the Belgian police, I was told, at one time carried for their backup weapon. They'd have a larger weapon, then they'd have this little double barrel tucked into their vest or side of their pants. And again, this was in roughly a 40 caliber ball, or you could put shot in it also. Here's an interesting pistol that was one of the few pistols, maybe the only one, I'm not sure, made by Mossberg. It was called a Brownie. It's a 4-shot 22. Derringer, basically. You couldn't even buy this pistol. What you did at the time, this was back probably around 1920s, if you bought one of their higher priced shotguns, they gave you one of these. So you don't see a whole lot of these around anymore. There probably never were too many of them, but again, this one's in excellent condition. Okay, it's got the latch on the back. You push down on it, and you tip this to the back. And again, that's where you load your shells and unload your shells here. And again, it was a 4-shot, which again, in a 22 short, interesting little gun. A little history behind it. Now, this one's got quite a bit of history behind it. This is an original Model 1 Sharps. It's a 4-barrel 22 short again. What they call the pepper box. Had 4 barrels, 4 22 shells at one time you could put in there. You push the button straight up on the bottom here. And with this one, then the barrels slide forward. They did a minute ago. They slide forward, and then again you unload them and reload them here. Again, it's a 4-shot, and this, like I said, is an original Sharps, which is a name brand that was very widely recognized. This is an 8000 serial number gun, so there weren't just too many of them made. Another interesting piece of American history on guns. It had these was a little unique. They put the gutta percha, what they call, is almost like one of the first forms of like a plastic on one side of it, as far as one grip. The other grip they'd use wood or walnut typically. Again, that made is a little distinctive because of this gun, or made with this gun.